Hey, great Monday evening. It is a beautiful evening in the city of Brownsville, Texas. And let me say, it is good to be back home. It's good to be back in the studio. It's good to be here, man. I was really, really excited to hit Brownsville because I knew it was okay to speed. And I think I'll be okay. The only issue was that I was driving my Mexican car, and I was going like, "Oh crud! I'm driving my Mexican car." They don't recognize my Mexican car here in Brownsville, but either no cops were on the expressway and I was hitting Brownsville, or I just got real lucky.
So you
And
think that when you're speeding, they just say, "Oh, that's Erasmo, let him go"?
yeah, of course.
Don't they don't?
Well,
I should
it's kind of
think.
trippy, but I think that after my ma'am sir thing, I think officers say like, I don't think we want to deal with it Erasmo too much anymore.
You really think your Fiat doesn't go that fast anyway? It just goes.
No,
But it has a Mexican license plate.
no. I have a
No.
Mexican car.
Oh, okay.
That his dad
I thought
Maggie,
it had like the TAM license plate that we see.
no, Maggie, you see me drive, Maggie.
No, I know.
Man, it
And,
goes fast, don't I?
and you use the right side to pass lane,
But why? Why, Maggie? Why?
not because of me.
Because people hog up the left lane when
Yeah,
they
they
shouldn't.
do. They do in the valley.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's true, Frank. They do it everywhere. I mean, I drove into the Ansalduas Bridge, and let me say, all the way from Mission all the way down to Brownsville, people just hog up that left lane.
They do. They do. And then I gotta admit, I criticize them, and then I catch myself doing it every time.
Um,
You know? I don't know what it is. What draws us to that left lane, the alleged passing lane? What draws us to that in the valley? Is there a ghost in the air that's doing this to us? I don't know.
Frank, I am free for breakfast tomorrow. Frank, stop by the office. I need you to come by the office.
Oh,
Bring breakfast to the office, and we'll have breakfast here at the office, Frank. I got tons of coffee. Thank you, Frank. Love you, Frank. That's our constable.
Wait, which Frank?
Don't
Frank
worry, the breakfast is
McCaffrey or
coming.
Frank Reese?
No,
Check,
well,
checks
Frank
in
can
the
bring
mail.
breakfast too.
Hey,
Frank Lerma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Frank Lerma. Yeah, bring breakfast to the office, and no, Sam, no.
No, comments.
Thank you for keeping us in the loop.
Yeah, Frank. Mr.
Wait, this-
McCaffrey was like breakfast.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Characters every once in a
Sure,
while.
grab up breakfast, Betty,
Oh, is that-
okay.
Well,
Okay.
Check
guys,
in the mail.
y'all can see the comments that are coming up, can't you? They're on
No.
the left side. No, you
Is it
can't.
under chat?
Yes, but we don't keep up with those. We just
Hey, because I'm a
conversation
superstar.
right here.
Oh, I see Ray Martinez. I've always enjoyed Ray Martinez.
He's crazy.
He's great. No
I
unfair things can be said about Ray Martinez around me, man. He's awesome.
love Royal. Good evening, a Snoopy. Hello, little cute little red girl. Welcome
Hello
back.
and good
Thank you.
evening.
Huh?
But
Thank
it's
you.
I'm actually outside and it's still kind of a dreary night, but for some reason it's nice too. I don't know what it is about today. It's dreary but nice. It feels like I'm an Irishman. It feels like the old country to me, I think.
Cool. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. We have full house tonight, Maggie. Yes, we got Maggie, of course. We have Sam, and we have Frank McCaffrey, who is running for Congress.
Yes.
Is
Vote
he
for
ready?
me.
Yeah, Maggie, not 37, not 38, Maggie. Congress.
34.
34.
Ah, good job, Maggie.
It only took 10 times.
She didn't go get that doctorate degree for nothing. Thank you, friend. Good evening. Kenina, I love you, Kenina. Whenever you want to make me some food, you let me know. Love you. You sound COVIDy, Erasmo. Erasmo has sworn he will never, ever get COVID.
Good.
That's just his man voice. He's trying to switch back to the man
Hi,
voice.
hey, Ray. How are you, Ray? Ray Martinez said hi, Frank. Hi, Ray.
He's coming. He's coming.
Oh, I think is
Everyone's
Mr.
rushing
McCaffrey
in.
reading the YouTube comments?
Oh, no, the comments are on the side, Maggie. You
I
can see
never.
it.
No, I like to have the full screen, so I just look at the comments that you're showing right now. That
Good
everybody
job,
else
Maggie.
sees.
Maggie's smart.
I try.
She's got a doctorate degree. Good evening, Saucillo, a family. Let's get to the comments.
I don't sense any COVID-y in you, Erasmo. I really
No.
don't.
Not anytime soon.
Good.
Hey, Royal, my man, and Royal, my man. And let's go through the comments and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of everything tonight. Hello and good evening to everyone. Bethany, Hermosa, good evening. Good evening. El Cheese, Maggie, Sam, hello. Arroyo. Hello, good to see you all. Julian, God man, amazing guy. This guy's amazing. Ramona, amazing too. Good evening. Good evening. Mexican car has a sombrero. Let me tell you, todo se parece a su dueño. Good evening, Mr. C. Your favorite breakfast tomorrow? Yes, sir. And I if you can come by the office, I have something for you. And Julian, la live Eddie.
Leave it alone, Mr. Morales.
Mr. Morales, good evening. Good evening. Alfonso, good evening. Los mendigos left lane huggers. They're bad. Hello, Maggie and gentlemen. Thank you for calling it Frank and gentlemen. Good. Hola, Johnny, my man. Good evening, Wendy, Hermosa. Wendy. I'm hungry. Gonna stop by your office. No! McCaffrey is buying royal breakfast. No! Hello, is everyone doing? I'm doing good. Okay. Look, my man is in the house. Welcome back. Thank you, Miss Murillo. Good evening. Good evening. Let's see. Muchos saludos para la Rosa. No! Oh, you almost got me, Roberto. I'm not a newbie here. Did the model kick you out? Hater. So Castro, stop calling it. You called it wrong again with Marisa's. Let me say, guys, we don't know absolutely jack squat about Marisa's lawsuit. And you know what? I'm done with it. I'm frustrated with it. I hate these little, oh, we won. Won what? We're going to go for supposedly a runoff. You not called a runoff, maybe a special election. Don't know. We don't know anything.
Are they really calling a special election on it?
Huh?
Are they going to go through a special election?
Well, you see, we don't know. We don't know. See, this is the issue because we don't have any information, and maybe they're going to, deem us worthy to know something. But I'm done. I don't care. You know what? I don't care. We're still screwed. I don't care. And that's just where it's at right now. Because the problem, Pepper and Patty, is they've been egging us along in regards to that election. They've been like, oh, teasy, a little teasy, a little teasy. It's frustrating. It's crap.
But maybe it's because they're not allowed to say something.
No, there comes a point in time, Maggie, where you have to be able to say something. I've been
hello. I've been where I couldn't say anything.
No. You chose not to say anything.
No,
because you had the power to say anything and everything you wanted. They just tried to screw with you. They just tried to screw with your rights.
I was told not to say.
They were screwing with your rights, and that is why they retracted, because they knew they had screwed up. They knew they had crossed the line. No one. As crazy as this country is getting, as crazy as it's getting, it's still America.
Wasn't that fall under retaliation?
Everything. They literally. You're talking about North Korea crap.
We're getting there.
And no, but honestly, look, Frank, and let me tell you, I've been watching. And look, there's some kids coming out, being very, very vocal up here in Florida. Some Cuban kids that have escaped a socialist country, and they've gone out there and said, "Guys, y'all are in danger because y'all are following the same steps." The same steps that our country has run away from. And I'm very, very proud that a lot of young people now are starting to speak up. A lot of people don't want their rights trampled on, don't want their voice to be silenced. And unfortunately, that's where this country is going. Just today, guys, and I'm going to stop at this because I'm really going to get off on the thing. Just today, President Biden goes out there and calls Peter Doocy, a stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah, I saw that. That was, and I got to tell you the story about how I saw that. I was with a pastor who was a volunteer, and someone texted it to me, so I checked it out in front of the pastor, and I said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know that the president of the United States was going to use foul language." But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Erasmo. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm used to it. I'm a pastor too, and let me tell you, I got pretty ticked off about it.
Yeah.
I think
No, but
Fred McCaffrey is sitting here going, "What the heck did I walk into?"
No.
There's a whole lot of stuff going on with these
no,
people.
but let's go into what's going on with the country. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, it's. I think it's scary. Yes.
It's scary. It's very, very scary. And let me say, the young man that I was listening to this morning actually stated, he goes, you know what, everyone always touts the free healthcare and the free education. They go, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. We would rather have to pay for our education. We would rather have to pay for our medical care than have to put up with all of what is happening to our folks out there. And let me tell you, I speak to these people in Cuba because we have a church there, and I speak to them on a daily basis. And let me tell you, they're struggling, Maggie, and they're struggling with a lot. And I'll send you an article, Maggie, that one of my co-pastors, because I didn't know if y'all knew this. I'm the best pastor in the city of Brownsville. But one of my
Keep telling us that. Yes.
no, it's true. No, it's true. I know it's hard to believe, it's true. One of my co-pastors out there in Cuba, I mean, literally went on a tandem and called out the newspaper because the newspaper is so one-sided. It's a governmental paper. And let me tell you, Frank, you know this. This is what's happening to the media here. Our media sucks. And Frank was part of the media, wasn't it, Frank?
Yeah. Well, what's happening with the media is, well, there's so many changes going on. It's almost hard to stay on top of it. But what's happening with the media is it's really gone so far out to the left. The mainstream media so far out to the left that the era where they would even pretend to be impartial has ended. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure you remember a guy named Bob Schieffer, Erasmo.
Yes.
He was CBS. I remember him sitting down in the 2012 election with a then rising Democrat named Martin O'Malley, and he said, "Can you honestly say that we're better off today than we were 4 years ago?" And Martin O'Malley said no. And I was thinking, wow, I can't believe that. Bob Schieffer just asked an impartial question, and he's with CBS News. And would you believe me if I told you that was like the last time I've heard an impartial question come from one of the big three media sources on TV was the 2012 election.
Well, let me say, we have no media here locally. We have absolutely no media here locally, and that's what really, really sucks. Because I remember the Walter Cronkite years. I know y'all young'uns probably don't. I remember, as the Watergate, journalists out there. I remember individuals breaking amazing stories. Even Dan Rather at one point was halfway decent. At one point, and I mean, Paul Harvey, a lot of the greats, guys. And let me tell you, what we have now is really, really pathetic because what's happened is everything's transitioned from, true reporting into that which sells, sensationalism. And because they think that most of the individuals are going to steer to the left, then they go like, well, this is where we need to go. It isn't. Yeah. People want, I'm sorry, people still want the truth. They might not like the truth. They may think that it's negative, but the truth's still going to be the truth.
And I think what's sad is our kids are growing up seeing these biased reportings. Yeah. And they're not going to know the difference between what is biased and what is not. And that's one of the things is I'll sit and watch the news with my daughter and I'll tell her, listen to the words they're saying, because this is not
America.
Well, yeah, but in between information, they're not just presenting you the information, they're also giving you an opinion. And I'll tell her, listen to when they say these particular words. Look at what they just said right now. That is telling you that they're giving you their opinion rather than just the information. And that's scary because that's one of the things that I honestly liked about the United States is that our ability to say what we want to say and not get reprimanded. And also, and that we used to be able to supposedly get the news straightforward. You didn't have it from the government telling it to you their way or one way.
Also, if you think about it, I'm sure we all remember a guy named Sean Spicer. He was the White House spokesperson in the early era of the Trump years, and he couldn't even finish a sentence. The press was just ripping him up, and they made him look stupid. They tore the guy down. Now, Jen Psaki the early era press secretary for the Biden administration comes out and says whatever she wants. She gets away with whatever she wants, and they sit back and let her do it. Every once in a while, someone will call her out, and that's very rare. And they probably don't even get invited back to the press room. I mean, she said she's done everything. I even think she kind of personally took credit for the vaccine early on. I mean, it's just amazing the difference. Do people see this? Do people recognize how biased it is? Or during the debates when they said, hey, we'll cut off your microphone to Biden and Trump. They said, we're going to cut off your microphone if you get too loud, obnoxious. And they would cut off Trump's, but they never cut off Biden's. You know, I mean, do people see this? Do they recognize what's going on? I mean, it's scary. We're becoming a one-party system.
Yeah.
I watch as many press briefings as I can, and I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't care who's president. I still want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
If really the information that has been shared as of recent this past year through the Biden administration has really been lackluster. Just say the best. But let me go into the media real quick in regards to a topic here locally. One of the things that we became famous for here in our area was, the whipping of Haitians. And let me tell you, I was so pissed, so pissed that the media ran on a tandem, calling our local law enforcement, our border patrol agents out there, our front line, automatically forming this huge old narrative in regards to them, going out there and comparing it to slavery. I mean, the guy was doing his job.
Yeah, and that thing where they take the straps, that's not a whip. That they take their straps and they kind of shake them to make a snapping noise. That's actually very humane, because that scares people back for a second. It's, in my opinion, more humane than starting to shoot tear gas at someone or pulling your gun on them. And if you ask me, I mean, that's my opinion. And the Border Patrol guys, they're very professional. I've dealt with them for several years. They've always been very, very sharp, very professional. The fact that they're the ones who get punished by the administration. Biden was threatening to punish them over that. And I watched the raw video of that. And all I saw was that age-old tactic of horse, officers on horse moving their straps to make a snapping noise just to kind of scare them back for a second. And I didn't see a whip. I don't know of anyone who actually saw it, but it seemed like the media was taking that and running that as a way to get to Border Patrol, which just seems so strange with all the Border Patrols had to go through over the last few months, over the last year now. I mean, it just seems so strange that they've come under attack like that. It really seems very unfair to me.
Well, it's unfair because, I mean, they're doing their job and they're trying to protect not only the country, because, they are federal agents. They're not only protecting their country, they're protecting our communities, our cities, our counties here locally. And unfortunately, all of these officers have gotten a bad rap by all types of politicians, going from our mayors to county commissioners to everyone, because they all went on the bandwagon. But going into immigration, I mean, immigration is still a big issue. And finishing off the border wall has now become a state-led movement where it should be a federal movement. Frank, what are we going to do about the border wall? Do we need the border wall?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually a supporter of the border wall, and I'll tell you why. I'm not naive. I know it's not going to stop everything. You see there's a fence around my backyard here. I don't know if you can see it in my shop. And, why do we have gated communities? Well, the reason for that is we know we're not going to stop someone who wants to break into our house from breaking our house, but we can deter them very strongly. It's a very strong deterrent. And I actually had a good conversation one day with one of the local sheriffs, Benny Martinez, up in Brooks County. I spent a lot of time working with him because I spent a lot of time covering immigration in Brooks County. And he was telling me that the fence helps, the wall helps because the smuggler or smugglers, along with the immigrants, will have to go there. So the police know where they're going to be, and it gives them a few minutes to stay ahead of them. So not only is it a deterrent, but it allows the police to stay ahead of the people they're trying to get. With these wide open borders, how do you possibly stay on top of them? I mean, really, how do you stay on top of them? And one of the things we've seen over the last year is that the smugglers are bringing the immigrants into the urban areas, and then the drugs through the rural areas. So how do you possibly stay on top of that unless you have a staff of a gazillion Border Patrol agents and a gazillion TPS guys just standing there?
Sorry to interrupt you. I
Yeah.
did read on your page that you were trying to get, I'm not sure if it was you or not, but that you were trying to see if you can get, I guess, people reimbursed for like broken fences whenever immigrants pass through their, I guess, acres or land. Because that was part of your platform. Besides, the previous one was that you're trying to deter the one party system. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up about reimbursing people, because in this district, Kennedy County has a lot of bailouts. Brooks County had so many bailouts in the first, say, 6 months of the Biden administration that the fences were just destroyed everywhere you looked. I mean, just destroyed, including the fences right across the street from that Fall Furious checkpoint. So, I mean, it's just like, how many bailouts did they have? You know, how many bailouts are they having every night? And of course, these bailouts are very dangerous, and there's a lot of fatalities, a lot of people left behind. But yeah, I was talking to the ranchers, and one of the ranchers was telling me that there is a tax break available. The other said there's no tax breaks available. And so what I was proposing is that if you get a police report from someone like Benny Martinez's office or Chuck Burns's office up in Kennedy County, and you're a rancher, you can get a tax break, you know. And I would be very
over here in the, I guess, people that live like in this area.
If they're
to Cameron County,
if they are ranchers who've had their fences destroyed, if people can report that they had, due to bailouts, somehow their fence were destroyed. I don't know how much ranch land there really is in Cameron County, but I know up in places like Kennedy and Brooks County, the fences were just being wiped out. I mean, just wiped out everywhere you looked. And that cost a lot of money. And add to that, you run the risk of your cattle escaping, your livelihood escaping.
How do they determine if it was done by like illegals or by other wild animals?
Oh, it's very apparent. It's very apparent.
It's obvious
that
okay.
A wild animal can't possibly run over a fence like that and destroy it. And especially when you have, I mean, probably hundreds of bailouts every night in these places. It's very apparent that it's done by a vehicle, unless it's a huge, giant herd of animals. But I mean, I don't think anyone suspects it's going to be anything other than.
And then speaking about ranchers, you also mentioned that you're like trying to help out the small businesses and agriculture, I guess, industry.
Yeah.
Like, so that would be your main focus as far as being in your position, like helping out the small businesses.
One of my main focuses. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so would that answer Peppermint Patty's question? Because you skipped it.
I did. I was going to go back to it. I promise.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we can ask it actually now. Oh. That's my Google. Peppermint Patty is actually a fictional character. My Hey Google is answering your question, Maggie.
Oh, okay.
That's who Peppermint Patty is. And I freaked out going like, who the hell entered my office? But Frank, Peppermint Patty is asking what separates you, what marks the difference between you and your opponent?
You know, I think it's kind of I think it's kind of clear that without bashing them, because I don't want to start bashing them. But I think I've got the right experience, and I've been out there on the field for years now with the ranchers, with the law enforcement, with Border Patrol, and with the small businesses. And I've been through a lot with them. I'm talking floods, freezes, you name it. And I mean, I've been in some of the worst, darkest hours with the shrimpers, for example. The shrimpers, I mean, just this experience, this knowing what these people have gone through and living some of it with them, you know, as a reporter, has really given me a multidimensional take on what goes on in the district and how often these people are ignored. In fact, that really irks me. It's one of the reasons I wanted to run, because so often in my career as a journalist, I would get phone calls that were meant for members of the U.S., you know, members of Congress, but the people in the representatives the people have had in the Rio Grande Valley haven't been answering their calls. So the members of the ag community have to call me because they know I'm going to do something about it.
Exactly.
It's just, in fact, I've been joking, but it's partially, there's a lot of truth behind this joke. I've been joking that I should say re-elect Frank McCaffrey for Congress because I've already practically been the congressman here. It's very frustrating for a lot of people.
Is that why you're for the whole 2-year term limit?
Well, I mean,
so we can keep everybody on their feet.
The term limits. Well, as far as term limits, if you read my stance on that, I was saying we have to have different term limits for different offices, meaning we'd have to really review how many terms a member of the House of Representatives get versus a senator, because a senator with 2 term limits gets 12 years.
12 years.
Of course, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives gets 4 years. So we'd have to review that. But I am for a U.S. House of Representative election every 2 years. Yes, I'm definitely for that because they do have to be held accountable. And that's what brings the U.S. House closer to the people than any other office at the federal level up on Capitol, up in Washington, in my opinion, because, of course, the president's going to be far detached from the people in this district. The senators are going to be a little bit less, but still pretty far detached. The SCOTUS, well, I mean, that's the Supreme Court of the United States. No one's going to be talking to them. So the guy they got to be talking to is their local congressman. And I don't think people have had that opportunity very often in the Valley to talk to their congressman.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So, I mean, and they know me. They've always been talking to me. They know I'm not going to ignore them. You might say, oh, well, maybe Frank was getting the calls that the Congress people were rejecting because the Congress people were busy. Well, my response to that is, so was I.
Yeah.
How many people call me?
If you're
so Erasmo, you should be saying re-elected Erasmo, since you're the contact, you're the social media contact, you're the equivalent to Frank on the news.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Erasmo and I are up for re-election, right?
Yeah.
Let me say,
Frank con la gente or Erasmo con la gente.
Erasmo con la gente, ya like Vicente. I don't know where the hell he gets those slogans. However much that guy paid way too much. And look, Mr. Nobody, I don't care about OANN.
I think they meant CNN.
No. There is an OAA.
Oh, I didn't know.
And something. Bright.
Yeah, that's
the only thing I ever watch in any of those things that you mentioned is Greg Gutfeld show. That show's funny. Have you seen Maggie? Greg Gutfeld show?
No.
Hey, try it. I'm not even joking. I mean, it's not like I'm a one-sided guy. I also like seeing Bill Maher. And every so often, I'll tolerate. Every so often, I'll tolerate Jimmy Fallon. Every so often, and again, supposedly they're not supposed to be doing news, but I'll watch every so often. But Greg Gutfeld, let me tell you, that guy's hilarious.
Yeah, he is good. He's really good. That was a Roger Ailes hire, and
yeah,
he's stood the test of time. He really is a talent. He really
guy's amazing, and that's the only one in all that group. But let me say, real quick, Mr. Nobody, I want a little bit of more nationalism. I want a little bit more patriotism. I want people to start loving America again. This is the greatest country on the face of this earth. The greatest country on the face of this earth.
Amen, Erasmo. Amen.
We can do what we are doing tonight because of the sacrifice of many individuals who fought, who gave their lives so that we could enjoy these freedoms. And on that note, Frank, one of the things that I think that a lot of folk here have been, wanting and have been promised for far too long is the VA hospital or a VA hospital, VA care for a lot of our local veterans. How are we going to get a VA hospital closer to Brownsville than San Antonio, Texas?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. Interesting you brought that up. As a reporter, I became known as the veterans reporter, and I spent tons of time up at that VA facility in Harlingen. In fact, I got thrown out of it a lot, and I used to work in tandem with one of the veterans groups, one of the many veterans groups down here in the Valley, a group known as the Last Patrol, and the commander, Richard Pena. He and I became very close, and he was always fighting for a veterans hospital, and I believe he in San Benito, and I was backing that fight with him, and we would get thrown out of the VA facility. That was something we wore like a badge of honor, and we did it on a regular basis. But now, one of the things that Richard Pena believes is that he's, like many, feels he's being ignored in Washington. So he was one of the people who was kind of, I think, kind of interested in seeing me run, and he's endorsed my campaign. And I think he believes that it would help to have someone in Washington who, can throw some weight around and make something like that happen. And he knows I will. The reason he was always calling me, and the reason a lot of the veterans were always calling me, because they know I'm going to listen. I'll make something happen. And a lot of times I had that camera with me, which also has a way of making things move.
Yeah, it helps, and it's so sad that a lot of times, in order to get a halfway decent answer, you're going to have something out there that records. Real quick, just to answer Snoopy's question, I don't want to be ignored. The only way that conservator can be set up for our district is if TEA decides that we need a conservator. And let me say, I don't think that it's happening anytime soon, although we surely still do need it.
So Donna got a conservator because of something they did in the past.
Mm-hmm. I think it had to do the same thing with bribes. I honestly, I cannot remember, but it had to do.
Had several cases already on them.
Yeah, it's been horrible, but it's something that's going on. Let me say, and I'll say this: it's something that's going on throughout Hidalgo County in a really, really kind of trippy way. I'm very, very proud of the FBI and federal agents and other individuals, who are actually putting pressure to a lot of these politicians that have gone sour. And it seems like they're dropping like flies. Individuals. We saw that how the FBI was at Henry Cuellar's house, a knocking. We saw how, as a recent, some of our state reps, have decided to, hang the towel up, months before their term is even over. Is all of this connected? You better believe it is.
Ooh.
Is it not connected? Probably not. But they have these tentacles out there, and what I mean is not to the extent that we may think that it is, but they have these tentacles out there where everyone is a part of everything. Frank, one of the things that a lot of our local politicians have, have experienced is taking bribes, is as they're wheeling and dealing while they're in office. How can we guarantee that Frank McCaffrey, as a congressman, is not going to go south?
Well, probably the best way to say that is, I never went south as a reporter. I spent years up on Capitol Hill as a political communications contractor. Never went south then. I just don't want to get into that mess. You know what I mean? I don't want, because I know that there would be, that the scorpion's tail would come and start stinging me if I did it. So I just don't want to touch it.
Well, I think a lot of us have. I mean, you've been in the public eye for a while now. I mean, I've been in the public eye for a little bit as well. And let me say, one of the things that I always challenge folk, I said, man, you could go out there and invent as many stories as you want. I have never taken a dime that hasn't belonged to me. I have never taken or stolen any money that should go to our community or to our children out there. And I think what happens is we need individuals as to who are tested and tried and have already been a part of the community without necessarily feeding off the community that they're out serving. Well, how important is being a public servant in the life of Frank McCaffrey, not running for office?
I, as a reporter, I actually kind of thought of myself as a public servant. I know that might not sound right, but it's true. I always took pride in the fact that, I would take the phone calls from a wealthy, powerful, and influential person, and then I'd take a phone call from someone who was selling their plasma to survive. And there's unfortunately a lot of that in the valley. We have some real poverty down here. I just viewed myself as the guy who was always there for everyone, and I think they viewed me as that too. And so, in many ways, I was a public servant, and this is a community that I really love. And there's a whole background. My life and my career has taken me all over the place, and I never really felt settled in anywhere until I came down here. And so when I came down here, I fell in love with this community, and it was very kind to me, even during some of my hard times, like when my dad passed away and things like that. So I felt like part of this family that we have in the RGV. It's probably a good way to describe it. And I really enjoyed serve
I
you the
was
people,
gonna
even
ask,
though as the capacity of
where,
a reporter. I'm sorry.
where are you from originally? I was going to ask you earlier.
Well, again, I had to move around a lot, but I grew up in the D.C. area. I spent the majority of my years in the D.C. metropolitan area. There's something to that I got to tell you. Um, D.C. when I was growing up was the murder capital of the world. I'm sure you remember it. It was terrible. It was a
I
terrible
was
time.
about to say I can answer that question.
Yeah, and guess what? Guess what? They had a lot of gun control laws. So there you have it. You know, once again, we see that gun control laws are not the answer. You'd see the crime rate go up, and then you'd see more calls for gun control, and the crime rate would go up even more. You know, so you learn that lesson. The Second Amendment, it just has to be defended. You know, Texas is a very pro Second Amendment state, and thank God. God bless the Second Amendment. God bless Texas, man, because, you know, people here, if you're a responsible person, you can defend your family, you know, and you can defend yourself. I'd be willing to
'Cause
bet the
I
crime
know
rate
you've
goes.
been here since 2016 here in the Valley, and you're with KRGV, correct?
Yeah, I came down here in 2016. They flew me in to anchor the presidential election in November, and I'm sure you guys remember it. We all entered that day in 2016 saying, we all know Hillary's going to win. They're going to rig it, and it's going to be more of the same. Everyone walked into that day, that same thought. I was thinking it. I'm guilty of it. And then that night, they told me that AP was reporting that Trump had won the state of Florida. And I said, I was on the air with Dr. Jerry Polinard. You probably remember him. And I said, well, it would be really hard for Hillary. This doesn't mean Trump wins, but it would be really hard for Hillary to win without all those delegates. And I just couldn't believe it. And as the night ended, I was saying Donald Trump has done it. The man who they said was just doing a reality show instead of a campaign, and they were trying to dismiss the whole time, has done it. So, I mean, it's a real inspiration for a lot of people. Hopefully some of the younger Republicans saw that and said, hey, I can do it too.
Yeah. Because I know you, because you're from that area, from the Northeast area, from New York, and then you studied over there in Maryland at Loyola, and then you went over to what was that university called?
John and Mary?
Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins.
Yeah. And that's where you got your master's from government.
Yeah.
But going back to the whole money thing, you spoke in your platform regarding the deficit of the United States, and that you also wanted to tackle that. What are your ways, and what are your ideas or your means of like tackling that deficit?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one because right now we're spending out of control. Our annual deficit for 2021 was, my son's looking at me right now. I should put him on camera. Our annual deficit for 2021 was $2.77 trillion. Now, our national debt, which is the combination of our annual deficits, you know, add up our annual deficits, that's our national debt. Our national debt is, if it's not at 30 trillion yet, it's going to hit it very soon. $30 trillion. I mean, who's going to bail us out? So here's the issue. When you're in Washington and when you're on the U.S. House floor, you can't go out there and say we need to cut spending without having a million advocacy groups come after you. You know, it destroys you politically. It really does. You're going to cut Medicare, or you're going to cut this program or that program. You're the worst person ever. You're a butcher. You're draconian cuts, they say. And I'm thinking we got to have someone who's going to just go out there and say we need to cut spending. We have to. So now, if elected in 2023, when I'm sworn into office, and I start promoting fiscal responsibility and even trying to write up some bills, and they pass the House, and presumably we win the Senate too, and they pass the Senate, we know it's going to get blocked in the Oval Office because Joe Biden or Kamala Harris will be president. But just speaking out about it and raising awareness and saying, even going on the TV interviews and saying, hey guys, we need to cut this spending. And look what stimulus spending has done. Look what it's done to our lives. It's led to inflation. It's led to labor shortage. It's led to a whole other attitude toward work in America, you know. And we got to do something about it. We have to make changes. So I don't care if it hurts me politically. I will go out there and raise a stink, and I will do anything I can to keep our country from just going deeper and deeper into debt, and our Fed from just printing out money left and right. We were even talking, there was even whispers that we'd have to go to the Bitcoin. I remember talking to people that a few months ago that we were going to go to the Bitcoin as our currency. I mean, can you imagine? And and Erasmo and I were joking earlier that soon, this is off camera, that soon we're going to be bartering with pelts.
Yeah,
I'm already there.
yeah, he's already there.
I suspected it. I knew that's what you were up to, Erasmo. You're
Maggie
bartering with pelts.
knows. Maggie knows.
You
I
go to
was
the local
wondering the other
strikes.
day. There's nothing wrong with bartering. I'm a fan of bartering. I was wondering the other day. Remember, was it in the 1980s, late 80s, where we used to have the national debt clock?
Yeah.
They
Oh
used
yeah.
to show
We
it.
still
Whatever
do.
happened to that? Why did we stop
They still
using
have
it?
it.
We still
It's
do.
still online, and you're gonna. It's still online. I think it's usdebtclock.org. Don't quote me
Okay.
on that. Something like that. Just do a Google search for it. But again, you're gonna look at it and you're gonna faint. You're gonna faint when you see the statistics. And so someone has to be screaming and yelling about it. You know, when I was up on Capitol Hill before as a political communications guy, that's what I was spending a lot of my time talking about, the national debt. And if you remember, during the Obama era, we had that national debt crisis. So this is probably about 10, 11 years ago. We're now double where we were there. Guys, double.
That's not
I
good.
mean, how is this happening? I mean, how is this happening? So we got to fight it. I mean, really, because that's another thing that could really take down this country. And another thing is, who's going to bail us out when we start defaulting? Are we going to call up Sri Lanka or Australia or Finland or Iran and say, "Hey guys, can you wire us $30 trillion this afternoon?"
I'm available for president next 4 years.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm available for president.
Good.
So y'all keep me in mind, Maggie. What are your thoughts, views on bipartisanship? Are you a proponent of working with all?
You know, of course, we're in an era of incredible division. I mean, it's rivaling, what led to the Civil War in a lot of eyes, and that's kind of scary. But, when you're in Washington, when you're in the House or the Senate, you do have to negotiate with the other side to a degree. And what happens is one side tends to cave too much, and sometimes it's the Republicans, that cave too much. If you remember, there was a guy named John Boehner who was the Speaker of the House a few years back, and he was criticized often for caving too much. They called him John Caver.
He's a good dancer, though.
I'm sorry.
He's a good dancer, though.
Yeah, and he cries. Remember, he cried. But you do have to negotiate with the other side. The issue is, how much are you going to cave? How much are you going to give? Because we are fighting a lot of important issues for the future of our country. For my son who just peeked his head out, I was telling you about, this is the future of the United States of America. I mean, and Erasmo was talking about it earlier. They used to say Cuba would just always be this tropical paradise. The communists took over, and 48 hours, it was dead. It was dead. And if you see footage from Cuba now, they still have the same cars from the era of the communist takeover. So these things, you don't know what could happen to the United States of America. We have some dangerous warning signs out there.
Yeah.
So it's our job as Republicans to fight and not cave too much when negotiating.
I'm going to correct you there. It should be our fight as Americans.
As far as Americans.
And I say that because, going back into Edward's question, I hate the Republican, Democrat, all this other stuff. I've stated before, Maggie doesn't believe me. I don't care. I hate it all. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a conservative. I believe in the Constitution and the rights it gives everyone out there. One of the things that we had one of our state senator candidates up here one time, and we asked a question in regards to abortion. And she's very much on the liberal side, very, very far left, stated that she believes that in abortion. And I said, well, there's an issue with that when your constituents are mostly as the pro-life. Are you going to be out there to to be the voice of your constituents, or you're going to go down party line? And and she says, well, it's my job to educate people. I say, like, you're not being elected to be an educator of the people. You're being elected to be the voice of the people. So let me ask, what are some issues that may not fall in line with the Republican Party, is that your constituents here locally are going to want you to be their voice for in Washington?
Well, I believe that there are a lot of government programs. I believe a lot of the constituents here will want government programs to, to fund the universities around here. And of course, the Republicans and academia are kind of like oil and water, especially now in recent years. So the question would be, do I go and fight to help UTRGV or, STC or Texas Southmost or some of these other schools? You know, that's actually something I'd have to really look into, the fight I was fighting, because I don't think necessarily just throwing money at the universities is going to help them.
No, I'll share one of them. I think one of my biggest concerns is immigration reform.
Okay.
I desperately want immigration reform, and I want it really bad. I want individuals, and again, going back into the issue with, and I've been very, very consistent on my stance. I want border protection. I want border security. I'm tired of individuals coming over and getting in front of the line, where a lot of our individuals out there as they have spent a lot of money in order to migrate into United States.
Yeah.
And I say this because it really, really ticks me off that the news media, going back into the news media, continues to call these people migrants. They're not migrants. They are illegal aliens. And I think this is one of the demographics that the Democrats have really lost. They've lost Hispanics because they think that they're pandering to Hispanics by saying, "Oh, well, we want to let everyone come across." Hispanics don't want everyone across. Hispanics want a right to come into this country legally. And I've known thousands of Hispanics that have paid tons of money to do it the right way. And I think that's one of the things that I would want anyone out there to really, really, follow through on immigration reform, because what has happened is Obama ran on immigration reform, and he stated, in my first 100 days, we're going to have immigration reform. Nothing happened, and that's taken into consideration. Going back into the bipartisan one, that's taken into consideration that he controlled both houses of Congress, and that infuriates me as someone that lives on the border, because one of the things that differentiates us from anywhere else in the country is that we're a unique type of horse. I mean, you can't ride us the way you drive a Philly. You ride a Philly horse, or you ride a California horse. You just can't. You have to go into stride with what ails and yearns and concerns the individuals here locally. And we want immigration reform. What's your stance on immigration reform?
Well, again, I too would like to see people come to the shining city on the hill. My grandparents and great parents came here. It's the greatest country on earth. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, we're better than the Roman Empire, better than the Byzantine Empire, British Empire, you name them. Throughout history, they used to say Japan was going to take over, and that didn't last too long. They couldn't hold up to us. And we want to see people do it. And the Hispanic community, the Hispanic community has brought so much to this country. I mean, what they've done to keep the faith in this country, Christianity and the Catholic Church alive, has been incredible. The Hispanic community is very family oriented. It's become my family. We want to see them do it legally. The issue with illegal immigration, and what I have learned during my years as a reporter, is that we just have to get tough. I'm sorry, but I've seen so much death. I've seen children left behind. You can't take it after a while. That's one of the reasons I felt I had to run. I just saw so much death out there on the field as a reporter that I said, we've got to find a way to toughen this immigration system. And what I learned personally as a reporter was that tough immigration enforcement is also very important. So, we do need it.
You would have to get, I guess, try to fund more on that Homeland Security and Border Patrol area.
Absolutely.
Fund them more. That way they're more equipped, because I know that it takes a while before you even get hired as a Border Patrol or Customs. And then as the very few that go in, there's always that one or two that gets fired for wrongdoings,
Yeah,
So
there are the bad apples, yes.
hiring more border patrol and customs, and as well as more what do they call them for immigration judges
More
to
immigration.
also speed up the process.
Well,
Yeah.
we desperately need, and I'll say this: we need as the more resources out there for our local law enforcement. We don't
Yeah.
need to defund. We need a lot more training. We know we need a lot more as the more guarantees that the individuals will get the necessary equipment that they require. But going back into the university question, and then the what you mentioned in regards to education,
Yeah.
Nelda's question is: what laws or policies are you interested in working on in regards to public education?
Well, like you, I don't want to. I believe, like you, Erasmo, I don't want to expand free public education, free college for everyone, because that does set a precedent. And we see such a change in what's going on in education in this country, where when I was growing up, you went to college, you went to high school, you got your diploma, then you went off to a 4-year school, or some people went to a 2-year school, then a 2-year, got their associates, and then got 2 years to get their bachelor's, and then you went and got a job at a good company and allegedly lived happily ever after. Well, that's all been debunked. That's not how it goes. Not anymore, at least. What's happening now is we're seeing the rise of trade schools. So, do we get grants for trade schools now, or do we emphasize that some kids are learning IT on their own somehow, and then grant a program where kids are learning how to do computers self-taught? So education's changing so much. It's not the way it used to be, and the universities are going through a lot of these changes. So, my view on public education is we need to keep it where it's at, which is, it's public from kindergarten to 12th grade. Then, people can take their own career choice or their own choices after that. I went to a 4-year school, and it was a different era. Back in those days, it was believed that if you go and get your 4-year degree, you're going to have a good job. That's not the case anymore. It's a totally different ballgame. So we have to take into consideration that education is changing, and it's really up to the individual student to figure out what's best for them. And so I don't think basically what I'm getting at is forcing government programs through education on people it's not.
What about adding trade schools or trade classes to high schools? That way they're kind of that way they don't have to go through the whole 2-year program in the trade schools, and they could just get it in high school.
That is probably that's a very good idea that you bring up. That is a very good idea, because
well we have that.
But I mean, would we see more of it? But would we see
had
more
it, but they got rid of it.
But what about doing something like, teaching plumbing in schools? We don't see that, and that's a good profession. Or, I mean, people might joke about it, but you make good money and you always have work.
Well, let me say that I went through a 4-year. I have a bachelor's degree. I mean, I don't have a doctorate. It's like Maggie,
Yeah.
But I have a bachelor's degree, and let me tell you, I have not one day used my bachelor's degree, not for one day. Has not made me a red nickel. Nada. Zip. Nothing. The only thing that made me...
If you would have gone to a trade school, it would have been different.
Yeah, baby. The only thing that's made me a good red nickel is this handsome face. It's just being so handsome.
You have a point there, Mr. McAfee, because the high schools still push universities. That's the main thing that you see is going to college. And recently it's a realization. Now I have a 16-year-old, so it's a realization that maybe she doesn't need to. I mean, up until now, it was always like, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. And now I'm thinking necessarily as a backup plan, maybe, but it's not necessarily what's going to guide her entire life. Correct. And we did have the program for the police officers and the firemen, didn't we, at Erasmo, at the high schools, and they got rid of them?
Got rid of them.
Yeah, so we don't have some of these. I know I had a friend who was very low income, and she was very proud of the fact that her 18-year-old daughter graduated being able to be an ENT already. But we don't have that program anymore also. So, yeah, you're right. We do need a little bit more trade schools and focus on it. Now, I just wanted to go back to something you said earlier also, that what was it? You said something about we need to pay attention to the warning signs of what's going on with the United States, because I agree. there's a few times that my daughter, COVID, for example, where we were watching it way at the beginning in December, and she was asking me about it, and I told her, "Oh, that's not going to happen. We're not going to get it." And she kept asking me, "Aren't you worried?" I'm like, "No, that's not something that we'll get." I told her, never in my life did I imagine we would be where we're at. January 6th, when they went into the Capitol, someone sent me a picture of it as it was happening. And I asked them, "Where's this, Russia?" And they said, "No, United States." I'm like, "Not even. There's no way that would ever happen in the United States." And then I get and start seeing the news. So there's a lot of things I'm starting to see that as maybe elementary, teenage, college years, we probably thought never in our lives will that happen in the United States. And I think I agree. I know I agree.
It's
There's
kind of
we've got
headed
some
that way.
warning signs, huh?
It's kind of heading that way because that has
Yes.
happened like in the Latin countries where they try to overtake the country and
Yeah.
everybody just goes and revolts in the streets. And it has happened here too, like when it happened over in California and in New York, that they take it out to the streets. And
Bueno,
eventually, if something like that's going to happen next coming election, it's bound to happen again.
It's
oh,
just
bueno.
amazing. I mean, these are things we didn't think we'd see. You're exactly right. I totally agree with you. We never thought we'd see these things in our country. And who knows what's coming next? You know, like you
I'm just
said, who
surprised
knows?
the National Guard was not called upon them.
Yeah, yeah. It makes you wonder what's coming next. I mean, did you read the article where the generals were coming up with a plan for a civil war, how to handle a civil war after the 2024 election? Can you imagine? I mean, and then comes the next question: how do we know who's on whose side? During the real Civil War, we had one side was wearing gray and one side was wearing blue. You knew who was who, right? How do we know? What's going on in this country? You know, what's going on? I think we really just need to recognize that something's happening, and we got to have some people who are willing to fight it, you know, and
Yeah.
willing to raise us think about it, and that's really important right now during the times we're in. Also, we can bring up what the big tech companies have been doing with internet censorship over the last, say, 2 or 3 years, and deplatforming networks. Or, I mean, guys, they're trying to eliminate conservative thought with using these big tech firms. And if you look at some of the bills, HR 1, that's an attempt to eliminate the Republican Party. I don't care what anyone tells you. HR 4 is a sequel to that, and it's another attempt to eliminate the Republican Party. And they slipped through the United States House of Representatives. If they get passed, signed into law, I mean, it's going to throw this country into a tailspin. So, yeah, I mean, we see the signs everywhere. You guys see them. I see them. It's everywhere you look.
Yeah.
And we got to fight it.
One of the things that has been made mention throughout, I guess, well, throughout the country, but even more so down here is the red wave. The red wave. Are we going to get a red wave in Rio Grande Valley?
I believe so. I really do. And now, initially, I would say that, and people would say, "Oh, you're crazy." Yeah, right. A giant, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Republican is telling me he's going to win Brownsville, Texas. You know, let's cart him off and have him drug tested right away. But and even that thought was kind of crossing my mind. But then I went to the football games in the last football season, and I'm telling you guys, I wish I had one of those body cams like the police had, because the reaction I was getting was unbelievable. First off, no one really cares that I'm white here. You know, it's the Valley. No one cared when I was at Channel 5. No one cares when they see me on the street. The racial thing isn't really a big deal. But the people who are independent were coming in my way, automatically coming my way. I was like, what? Then Democrats were denouncing their party. Not all of them, but it's like 3 or 4 of them would denounce their party and come on my side. And I was thinking, oh, I can't believe this. And one of my friends who's from Brownsville said it has to do with abortion. People just really do not in the Rio Grande Valley support the idea of killing babies. They don't support it. And so they see a pro-life candidate and they say, you know what, I'm on board with them. So
what I noticed is that most candidates right now in the Republican Party, they're all pro everything. Pro Second Amendment, pro-life, pro everything. So what literally sets you apart from everybody else, especially like Myra and Mr. Kunkel? Like Myra is the same thing, pro-life, pro-guns, and pro-God. And then Mr. Kunkel as well, pro-guns. So, like, I'm literally trying to separate you. Besides the
Yeah,
fact that you're the only one with a master's in government.
Well,
yeah,
and if I may just elaborate, I think a lot of it has to do with, you cannot run a campaign. This is my opinion. You can't run a campaign by saying, "Oh, this is what the red party constantly follows: pro, anti,
Yeah.
anti, 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 anti." And it's a great question. What separates you from being that red candidate to being the Brownsville candidate?
That different shade of red type of deal.
yeah. I mean, well, yeah, I have heard their stances on the issue, and I think that though we agree in the fundamentals of the issue, I think I just understand the intricacies, having had the experience in Washington and having had the experience, um, just out on the field as a reporter. I learned a lot of my lessons, and I just think that knowing which one of these policies could go into play, which one of these policies work, and what policy doesn't work, I think is what sets me apart. Um, because yes, yeah, there is like the party line, and also if you look at District 15, a lot of the candidates there are also following the party line. Um, I think the one thing that differentiates me is I just know the policies. I have my plans. I have my ideas on how I'm going to make these policies work. Um, I wish I could say I'm a candidate because I'm a handsome guy or something like that, but I'm unfortunately not a handsome guy, and that's not all that would be with me either. I really I have a good grasp of these issues. I
That's my
really
job.
that's right.
It's my job to be the
I was
handsome
never the
candidate.
handsome guy. I was
But
always like,
let me say, and I think one of the things that you mentioned, and I think Maggie knows, people here locally, they don't care if you're a gringo, and
they don't.
it doesn't really make a matter here. That's one of the things that I really love about Brownsville, Texas. I mean, I grew up with one of the only black guys here in Brownsville, Texas. I mean, no one cared that he was black.
Yeah,
We'd call him el negro, but we loved Dwayne. We just loved the guy.
yeah,
He was one of us, and we like our white people,
yeah,
most of the time.
Stop it.
But but it doesn't matter here in that respect, and I'm hoping that does come across.
We
And let me
see
say,
past that.
yeah, we see past that, and I think it comes with the community that we live in, that is just so embracing of all cultures out there. I mean, one of our greatest doctors, some of our greatest doctors here in Brownsville are Indian, or
yeah,
from another country, and it doesn't matter to anyone here. We love them as if they were, part of our own. I mean, I call a lot of them my brother, because just that's the way the culture is. With that said, let me say that, okay, one of the things that I think is very important, and I think that one of the reasons why a lot of individuals opt to go down that I gotta go red, I gotta go red, gotta go red, gotta go red, is because of a lot of the politics games that are played. And I hate the politics games that are played. I hate the funding. I hate the fact that a lot of those individuals, they'll state whatever gets them the money to run a campaign. And let me say, I would rather vote for a candidate that is true blue to his beliefs than is doggone red, just because it's going to get him another sign put up somewhere. And
yeah.
I hope that you accept the invitation to come back. We're not an easy group here in this in this area.
Oh,
A lot of the comments, they were on or on we're on the kind of like the racy side, like Minerva McCaffrey saying "Hola, handsome," but we have a lot of great-hearted people, and I know that like tonight we've had a lot of individuals that have been very very far to the left, and that's cool, guys. And I think that one of the things that I'll make mention of this. Mike Pineapple, I love the guy. I know he is a Democrat, I would say, and tends to focus a lot on the left side. But I know for a fact that I'm going to get Mike Pineapple's vote this come November, as because I think Mike sees past all the Democrat, all the stuff, and sees an individual for what they really are, what they really been in regards to being an asset to the community. And that's my hope, that everyone out there doesn't see red, doesn't see blue, starts focusing on the candidate, and that candidates start stepping away from the red and the blue in regards to policies, and start this going out there and being the true voice that our community desires. Quick, the question is, what are you going to do for Brownsville, for our district? All we've heard is cookie cutter responses to the same red talking points, and I think this is where this question is going. How is Brownsville going to be better with a Frank McCaffrey representing us at in Washington?
Well, I mean, one of the things I was saying earlier is Brownsville really hasn't had too many people listening to him in Washington, if anyone, and that I would definitely be the guy who takes the call. Again, I was always the guy who takes the calls. But also, Brownsville has a great small business community, and one of my top points of focus is the small businesses, and focusing on them, fighting regulation and taxation that would shut them down, and they've been through a lot of that in recent years, and doing whatever I can to help them flourish, or new businesses to pop up and flourish, because some of the small businesses in Brownsville are incredible. I mean, Fiesta Graphics, I've done some signs there, and they saved me one time. They saved me because I forgot to put the disclaimer on my signs, and they printed out stickers free of charge, caught me on the way out and said, put the stickers on. These are great small businesses. So someone who's actually their voice, someone who's going to do anything he can to let them grow and hire locally. That's one thing I can do for Brownsville, and that's one thing I'll always do for Brownsville. And also the ag community, like the shrimpers, for example. I've always had a good relationship with the shrimpers. Just keep. If they need H-2B visas, I'll be their guy to go to DHS and fight to get them all the H-2B visas they want, because they need to continue building that industry and not let it die off. And also they have a lot of foreign competition. There's a lot of things that shrimpers deal with that they need an advocate in Washington to be speaking out about. But I think just this approach to just constantly focusing on small business and allowing them to develop really does help a community. And Brownsville is a great community. By the way, I'll argue that the small business restaurants in Brownsville and the Rio Grande Valley, the small business Mexican restaurants, that is, are the absolute best restaurants on earth. So they definitely need an advocate, and I'm a big fan of theirs. So I will be their guy fighting for them. I always be their guy fighting for them. They know that. They've called me many times.
Maggie, anything other, Maggie?
Are we caught up with comments? That's my job, Mr. McCaffrey. Sorry.
Okay. We are cut up with it. I
was gonna ask you, of your opponents, are you the one most familiar with the Valley since you worked around here?
Well, I've been down here over 5 years, so I haven't been down here a huge length of time. But working around here, I mean, I've seen every inch of it. And again, we're not talking about the wealthy neighborhoods and the powerful people. Yeah, I spent time with them, but I spent time in some of the places where poverty rules, and potentially, actually, some places probably pretty dangerous in some ways. And I saw what people are living with there, and I knew for years that these people didn't have anyone listening to them in Washington. They didn't have any voice. They're just assumed, maybe they'll get out and vote, and so maybe they're a number for us. But other than that, they're not. They don't have anyone listening to them. So I really got to know the Valley really well. And the Valley got to know me well, and just so grateful for the experience I've had down here. And by the way, I got to tell you guys, when my contract was up at Channel 5, I had the opportunity to go other places, but I said, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave this. This is my life. This is my family. And I loved it down here so much. I love the people so much. So you got to keep this big white guy down here for you, like it or not.
We're the lucky ones. Besides food, family, and friends, what else do you love about? Let me tell you, Mateo. Is there anything other?
I was gonna say, isn't that everything?
That's everything, baby. I love you, Matthew.
There's a great feel in the downtown area, the great history of Brownsville. Some of those historical buildings are really cool. Maybe, just maybe, if we did some more for the economy, that we could do something to fix up some of those older buildings that they seem to be decaying somewhat. They're great history in Brownsville. Maybe we should be promoting that more. Just an idea.
Look at his face. You're losing him. This is from the youth Erasmo. Obviously, you don't know his
No,
what
it's
sets him
it's
off.
still, but it is true though. There is a whole lot of
Very
history
true.
down here
Our
that's
history is
being missed
important.
out on, and people just don't know it, and they've been living here their whole lives.
Well, to my credit, Maggie, thank you, Maggie. To my credit, let me tell you guys, I have the greatest billboard in my office.
Yes,
And the
you do.
greatest billboard in my office actually shares Brownsville's history. And
Cool.
that is one of the reasons why I love that billboard, because it gives you a little bit of everything. And
Yeah.
it's something that I want for Brownsville. I've shared my views in regards to the downtown, to the defunct, to the crumbling downtown. And
Yeah.
look, I want to preserve our history, our
Amen.
essence. I just don't want us to be dragged to the point where we cannot move past it, and
Yeah.
start bringing in industry that's going to benefit and lift up Brownsville, because Brownsville continues to be one of the poorest communities in the country,
Yeah.
one of the is the fourth, if not the fifth, least educated. We need help, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of candidates have decided to throw their hat in the ring, and that not the atypical only blue on the blue side, but on all sides. And I can appreciate that, guys, because it's going to give us it gives us a responsibility to make sure and go out there and try to vet every single candidate out there and hear them out, and get to know them, because we've got a couple of months before this primary is already done and over with, guys. So we don't have a lot of time. So
Yeah.
I appreciate Frank, you coming on, and come back anytime you want.
Hey, thank you for having me, guys. I'm glad you were tough. I was kind of hoping that it would be challenging and not just us joking around and having fun. I'm glad we got to talk about some serious issues, because there is a lot going on that someone's got to start addressing, or I guess we are addressing, but we need to be addressing it a little bit more and a lot more. And that's what I want to do. I mean, this country is the best on earth, and we got to keep it that way. We got to keep a two-party system.
Yeah, we joke around a lot around here, and people know that. But people know that where our heart is, and we love our community, we love our rights, we love our Constitution, and we just want better for our people. And let me say that one of the things that I've constantly shared is how we need to make sure that we leave a better Brownsville than what we were given. And unfortunately for us, we've been stagnant too long. And I'll go back and say the same thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Sam, any other questions before we shut off tonight?
If I'm correct, I think the end of this month is the last day to register
You're
to
never
vote
correct.
wherever for like the young people,
Yes.
just to make sure that way they have everything ready when they go to vote. And if you're on YouTube, press the like button.
Oh gosh, yes. My people on YouTube.
Um,
Dog it, I forgot.
Yeah, so the end of this month is a week, right? That's all we have left.
Yeah.
yes,
So register to vote,
24th.
guys. Huh?
Today's the
'Cause I know,
24th. Is that
like,
correct? I'm sorry.
yes, at the end of this month. I'm not too sure on the exact dates, but I thought it was in the end of this month for
It's on
registering
the
to vote.
31st. You have until next month, this coming Monday, in a week, to
Yeah.
register to vote.
Register to vote.
Yeah,
I'm
that way
actually
you get all that new kids getting, I guess, accustomed to voting. Because some people have gone up until like their 40s or 50s and not voted at all and stuff. So,
like
but
Maggie.
yet they want to complain. Other than that, I do apologize because I know we did mention on Friday, I believe, or Saturday, that we're going to talk about the whole emails. I guess that will get pushed to another day.
The Saturday morning, yes. I was waiting for that to come up, but
I'm so sorry about that. I do have all the info, but Mr. McCaffrey, it was great that he came through so we could ask a couple of questions, and now we know how he truly is. I do know that he was a journalist. Well, he's a journalist, and he met a lot of people down here, and he has a master's in government, so that has pretty much that going for him,
Well, thank you, guys.
Good job.
Yeah, I wish you could. Or as I was saying earlier, I wish you could say it. He's also really handsome, but I never really can't brag about that. No, I'm kidding.
Maggie's the Anderson Cooper of Browns.
because of the white hair, the glasses.
Yes.
I was gonna mention Cooper when you guys were mentioning the drone.
I was never the handsome Anderson Cooper type guy. Sorry, I couldn't help you with that one.
Guys, have a great evening. Social distance, face covering, hand sanitizer. If you still believe in all that crap, I'm done. Guys,
Thank you, guys.
please
Have a good night.
reach out to the candidates. Reach out to them all, and to vet them and ask them questions. And also, if you have any other questions or anything else that we need to discuss out there, please let us know. Tomorrow we will have Morgan Lamantia on at 9:30 in the morning. She wants to share her platform for a while. So, we're going to give her some time. Again, open invitation to anyone out there. Even if you're running against me, I don't know why anybody would want to do that. But even if you're running against me, guys, please, take the time and come on and share your platform. I don't know how Maggie would appreciate Que Te Pasa coming on. But we'll take them too.
You need to let Mr. McCaffrey in on that one.
We will. We'll let him know after the show. Guys, have a great evening. Again, guys, tomorrow morning, 9:00 in the morning, be here. Guys, be good to each other. And please, please, please continue to be good to me. God bless.
God bless you.